Welcome into Crossing the Aisle. I'm Lindsay.
I'm Shaun. I said
Hi.
that really
You
chipper,
do,
didn't I?
you are you so chipper
Yeah,
today?
I know. I'm in a better mood. So
Well, that's always good.
yeah, it
It's always
is.
good for me.
So how's everybody doing on your lunch hour today? We've got a topic that we've been wanting to hit. We talked about a little bit on Tuesday when I was here. I was out yesterday because I have to pay my mortgage and represent my clients. But we got one about, we're going to talk about the Capitol Police officers indictment. That's a big hot topic in town right now. I might get into, if we get time, we're going to talk about, Lindsay wants to get into the really shocking revelations of Robert F. Kennedy talking about the rise in autism and the epidemic that is. And something
Yeah.
first time I really found it very interesting watching that
I've been
press conference.
dying for him to say that. I've
It
made him
was,
watch all these
well,
vaccine documentaries.
the document, it's like really good data like that's what captures me. Because, I always say this, numbers don't, you get mad at me when I look at election numbers because I like numbers.
Are you a
Data
numbers
doesn't lie.
guy
Yeah,
like Tate?
like Tate. I like it. I like it when there's data that shows me something, not people say things anecdotally or whatever. Like now there's a
See, he thinks everything I say is anecdotally. I'm like, no, these are facts. I promise you.
yeah. And so it was really great presentation. If you missed it, go to YouTube, look at it. It'll shock you the amount of children that now have autism versus like 1987 to now.
Oh yeah, like
It's
20
amazing.
years. It's 20
Or
in
nearly
the
40
last 20
years.
years. It's like a 480% increase, and we just see it getting worse by the year. So it's definitely interesting. He gave a press conference yesterday. I think it's less than 30 minutes, but there's some really good information in there that should shock you. I think everyone should be extremely concerned about that. Everyone should also be extremely concerned about our AG's office prosecuting
Yeah.
some police who have basically given their lives to protect the city of Jackson.
Yeah, this is one of the more shocking indictments I've ever seen. I'll be that melodramatic to say that. Anthony Fox was one that I was adamantly against, and really disagreed with that case as well. This one is like that in terms of officers in the line of duty doing things to protect their lives. Anthony in that situation was arrested someone. I'm not saying I think he did the right thing, obviously. Here you've got cops that are, in one instance being shot at, the aggravated assault indictment against Michael Rhinewalt and Jeffrey Walker. And then,
which we knew about that happened when did that indictment come out?
Well, that came out in December of 2024. The incident was arising. There's two indictments, y'all. Don't clear this up. I don't want to talk too fast for everybody. There's two indictments with separate officers, and I'll set this up this way. So what you have is an August 14th, 2022 incident involving Officer Michael Rhinewalt and Officer Jeffrey Walker. And that is an aggravated assault case against, I believe, a Sinatra Moore was the suspect in that case. That is one case that happens in August of 2022.
She was shot but not killed.
Somebody was shot in the vehicle. There was two people in the vehicle, a female and Sinatra Moore, who was the driver of the car.
Okay.
The female was shot. And that we can get into that story, later on the show.
Yeah.
But so that case sat there and was cleared by MBN, recommended as justifiable shooting, sent to the AG's office about a year later. They decided to indict this past December.
And then we were live on the show Tuesday when the news broke that these indictments were handed down for the second incident.
There's a second
September,
right? And that's what gets confusing. So I think there's another incident involving Officer Rhinewalt and a different officer, Stephen Fredrick, who is the officer that's kind of been well known now about getting the DUI that allegedly Brian Bailey helped with that. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what the implications were.
Mm-hmm.
That were he was involved in a wreck, I think, in Scott County, somewhere like that.
But he has resigned from Capitol Police following, I think, that incident,
the DUI incident,
yeah. and he's employed somewhere else now.
I think
believe
it was Scott County, but I can't remember so now they were just Stephen Fredrick and Michael Rhinewalt were now indicted for manslaughter of a Jalen Lewis. And that's another incident that happened in September, I believe, of 2002. So you've got two indictments of three Capitol Police officers for cases that are events stemming from 2022, the late summer, early fall of 2022. So that's that's the first questions that I had were, why did this take that long to do that? And, having as much experience in investigations and prosecuting people as I do have, I can say this clearly, like, there is no reason for an indictment like that unless you have uncovered some sort of new evidence, some new witnesses came forward, some physical evidence you didn't know that you had,
Mhm.
DNA, those kinds of things. For it to take that long, this could have, if somebody's gonna get indicted, it should have happened a while ago.
Yeah, and I mean, not only that, Shaun, but if there was even an inkling in the AG's mind that this could be, I'm talking about Michael here, Michael Rhinewalt, because he's the one, the one in both
He's
cases.
in both indictments.
He's
Yeah.
in both indictments. And if there was even a feeling that he could be a dirty cop, why let him continue to work? He continued to work as a Capitol police officer up until January of 25, which is when they suspended him without pay, by the way. But there have been no more incidents concerning this man since September of 2022, so years ago.
Yeah, and I think, well, there's just two different departments. You got DPS and the AG's office. Now, MBI is under Department of Public Safety, DPS, and they ruled that a justifiable homicide regarding the manslaughter indictment. And I'm sure DPS had, access to that, obviously. So there he was able to continue working as a police officer. So it wasn't until the Attorney General's office decided to indict him for the aggravated assault, not the manslaughter, I think, that he had to go on leave or administrative leave for those things. It's just it's interesting that the Attorney General would have decided to indict the three officers for these crimes, which clearly, by the facts, if you hear the facts out, they're justifiable. There's no way to look at it other than that. So I want to know, do they have some new evidence that we just don't know about? Because based upon everything that I'm hearing and reading and all that kind of stuff, there is just no way that these guys are guilty of this. And what more disturbing, I've discussed this with over the last few days with so many prosecutors, cops, everybody that's done this as their career, and everybody is just bamboozled in the legal community and the law enforcement community about how this could have happened.
Right.
It's I'm going to say, be emphatic about it. It's such an F up that of epic proportions that I don't know, how they're going to walk it back.
And there were so many, us included, who were upset about the DA in Hinds County going after Anthony Fox.
Mm-hmm.
This is not the same. A lot of people are thinking, okay, this is kind of the same kind of case,
Yeah.
but in fact, this is not the DA's office. So
No.
it's not our favorite DA over there, George Soros funded Jody Owens, who likes to hang out on yachts with strippers. It's not him. He's not the one behind this.
No, he's not. And people from that office, privately have told me, like, what the heck, is going on.
They don't want
here.
anyone thinking they're the ones doing it.
No, they don't want to think that, because they we didn't do this. This is not us. And because that's another thing made clear for the audience. They passed a law, I believe it was either in 2021 or 2022, where the AG has exclusive jurisdiction over officer-involved shootings.
But that was after Anthony Fox, I guess.
But that wasn't a shooting case, though.
Okay,
that's
true. That's true.
That involved,
okay.
Yeah. So officer-involved shootings, and the purpose was a good purpose, I thought, because it was like, we're going to take it out of hands of prosecutors like Jody Owens, who might do something like this, or in other prosecutors that may prosecute cops unfairly. It was like, well, the AG can streamline this and it'll be a fair. And I think people felt pretty comfortable with that until you see this S show.
Yeah.
Now it's like you got officers on the street saying, is the AG going to indict me for defending myself? Especially when you're talking about Capitol Police, JPD, dangerous police jobs in the state of Mississippi, where it's a freaking war zone.
Right. Like they're out there really risking their lives anytime they put that badge on.
Yeah, it's completely dangerous for them. And now you've got a hostile Attorney General's office, looking over your shoulder and indicting you in cases where it is beyond clear that these guys are innocent, that they were doing their job. Yes, beyond clear.
The manslaughter case, this victim, I guess if you want to call him a victim, Jalen Lewis, right?
Mm-hmm.
So his sister has put some videos out there saying, it was like these cops were just waiting on him to pull up, and then they just shot straight into his car. He was doing nothing wrong. The passenger that was in the vehicle with Jalen Lewis is in this video with his sister telling the story. And you can look at the story and hear them telling it and know that that is absolutely not what happened. And truth be known, the facts concerning this man, Jalen Lewis, or this boy, is that he was wanted by the Mississippi Bureau of Narcotics. He was one of the top 5 most sought after. I guess he was selling drugs. And when this did happen, when he was shot, he was actually cornered by 2 Capitol Police vehicles because he was in pursuit.
Y-
And, he had what, 3 pounds of marijuana on him, and I mean, this obviously was not someone a model citizen.
Yeah, let me set this up for everybody. So here's the facts of the manslaughter case that came out this week. So the officers see Jalen Lewis driving, and he's suspected to possibly be part of some auto burglaries. It looks like a car. Then he runs
Mhm.
through a stoplight, which gives him
But they
probable
think he's in
cause.
a stolen car.
Right, and they pull him up. It's a very expensive car, and I can't remember the type of car. But it was like
Some kind of a track,
track
I
G,
can't,
something
yeah.
like $100,000 car. Okay, so he goes through the stoplight. That's his probable cause. They pull him over. They come to the front of him. There's Capitol Police behind him. They blocked him in. So this rocket scientist tries to back up his car into the Capitol Police officers
Actually hits them.
and hits their car, the ones that are behind him, so everybody could look at this in their head. And then the two officers, one being Rhinewalt and the other Stephen Fredrick, are in front out of their vehicle saying, "Stop, stop, stop." They see Jalen Lewis with a firearm in his hand.
Right.
And one of them yells, "Gun, gun, gun." They don't fire at this point. They're not even firing yet at this
Right.
point. Then Lewis decides to put his car in drive and try to ram the cops. Then they fire. Of course they did. And they shoot and they kill him, But I say it's a pretty good killing in my mind. So they kill him.
You call those what?
Community improvement killings.
Community improvement.
So they kill him. The girl is fine. Thank God she's okay. She gives a statement saying that all the things the officer said, it corroborates all of that.
Yeah. So yeah, and they're trying to save him. They're calling 911 trying to get medical help for him.
And then in the search of the vehicle, there's 3 pounds of marijuana and there's 3 weapons, one right by Jalen Lewis, another, I think, on the other side of him, and one in the back. And I think the other 2 weapons were AR pistols,
Yeah.
something like that. I'm not exactly, maybe getting that wrong, but he's loaded up with firearms and dope.
Obviously dangerous.
He is not a model citizen.
Yeah.
He's got, I don't know if y'all can think about this. I've never ridden around my car with 3 guns. I've ridden around with guns, and must be missed if you have, and 3 pounds of dope, and I'm up to like good stuff. Like that doesn't really indicate that.
No.
So, again, he rams one set of officers. I think that's enough for them to start shooting then.
Absolutely.
I mean, I think they can start shooting then. And then they wait, and he pulls out a gun. They can see it. They still don't shoot. Then he tries to ram them. They're like, okay, now we got to protect ourselves.
And he's looking at him, but he says something to him along the lines of, we can't repeat on the radio, but they knew that he was about to attempt to take their lives. And so this was self-defense. And one thing I want to make clear, because this has not been in any of the articles that I've read or any of the news stations, they've just made the statement that there is no body cam footage. And to me, that makes it sound like these cops didn't have their body cam on. Well, you have to remember, this was back shortly after CCID was established, and they did not have body cams at the time. And then once they finally did get some cameras, they were older, weren't working well, wouldn't stay charged. And I think this incident even happened like towards the end of the shift. And some of the guys even had their own personal body cams that they would wear just to protect themselves from something like this happening.
And so, right, exactly. Yeah. So the non-functional body cameras, it's not like the cops are turning them off, which is what the news media wants you to think, which is not true. That's not true. That's not what happened at all. And those are the facts of the case. And what the Attorney General does is, after the MBI, by the way, who's looked at all this, they're trained to do this, and they say this is justifiable
homicide.
Yeah.
They told them they had nothing to worry about.
And they decide, hey, you know what we're going to do? We're going to take this to a grand jury and indict this. So they indict it. Completely ridiculous in my mind.
And I just want to know why. Why?
It's insane. I got some theories on that, and we can get to that next segment. But so we'll get into the facts of the other aggravated assault, which are equally as stupid as this.
Absolutely.
But yeah, this is what your Attorney General has decided to indict. This is how she's fighting crime, is by indicting police officers trying to save their own lives,
trying to make the city safer.
Yeah, from drug dealers that are running around with 3 guns and tons of dope. And they're the ones
wanted by NBN.
Yeah.
One of the top 5 wanted by NBN.
Crazy.
Y'all stay with us. We're going to break this down some more on the other side of the break. And we want to hear your thoughts and opinions as well. 601-879-0002 is the call-in line here. Stay with us crossing the aisle on WIB. We will be right back. Welcome back into Crossing the Aisle with Shaun and Lindsey. Shaun just saw something over there that has him passionate, so I'm going to let him run with it.
Yeah, I was Googling some stuff about the case we're talking about. We're going to get into all the facts for the next one and kind of recap what we talked about first segment. But this is just my take on the news media. So if you Google about this case, NBC News has got an article, and this is the headline of the article. And I'm going to post this on social media later just to make my point how ridiculous the news media can be. It says Mississippi officers charged in young father's shooting death. Jalen Lewis, 25, was killed in 2022 during the Capitol Police's aggressive anti-crime efforts in Jackson. 2 Mississippi Capitol Police officers have been charged with manslaughter in the fatal shooting of a young father during 2022 traffic stop, part of a string of shootings by officers in an aggressive push to stamp out spiking crime in Jackson. Now, they don't say drug dealer with 3 pounds of dope shot down by police, which would have been the accurate thing to say.
Absolutely.
Like they don't put anything like that. It's Mississippi officers charged in young father's shooting death. That is unbelievable. Like
that's
that they would
just
write
insane.
It that way.
Like, why on earth would they put it like that? And here's the thing: this is going to make the officers out there today more or not as safe, because this is the narrative that's being pushed. What did it say? A string of shootings.
A string of shootings, right? There's been a string of shootings. A string of shootings in the cities happens every day. That's the string of shootings we need to be worried about, not when the officers are shooting back. Thank God they are. Anyway, so I'm sorry, that just caught my attention at the break. And I'm going to put that on Facebook for everybody to look at and see how insane that is. So to recap, what we have is on the manslaughter case, we've got guy is pulled over for running stop signs, suspected to be a auto burglar. Capitol Police officers go pull up behind him. Capitol Police officers pull up in front of him. He puts it in reverse, rams the ones in behind him. Then the 2 in front get out of the car, pull their weapons. They see him, the driver, Jalen Lewis, with a firearm. They clearly say, gun, gun, gun. They don't shoot yet. He tries to ram them. They shoot, obviously.
After backing into another.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. They've already backed into the other police car. And these guys, there's a female in the car with Jalen Lewis. She says, corroborates everything the officers say. Now she's changing her story. Shocking.
Mm-hmm. Right.
This is what happens. And these guys get indicted for manslaughter. Okay. Crazy. I know this is the world we live in. Second case, there's an ag assault that happened on August, I think 14th of 2022, involving Sinatra Moore and a female who did get shot. The officers pull her over on State Street, the wing stop next to Lindsey and I's Mexican restaurant that we go to pretty much every week. And Picantes, give them a shout out. That's happened right there. They pull him over. They try to speak to the guy. I hope I'm getting some of this right. Probably missing some of it. I forgot. This is all captured on camera. He takes off. They take off after him. He takes a right on Fortification, goes down to where you can get on the interstate. They chase him. After that point, he fires through his back window of his car. The suspect shoots his window out, shooting at the officers.
There's gunshot residue all over the vehicle.
Gunshot residue all over inside the car. Shoots at the cops. Okay. Well, what do you think they do? Crazy thing they're going to do. Shoot back. Because that's what happens when you get shot at,
Yeah. I mean, that's what they're taught to do. It's their job.
You're going to shoot back. So they chase him. He gets on the on-ramp there at Fortification on the 55 South. He gets off right there. The next exit is High Street, gets off. They have a crazy chase. Yeah, if y'all know that area pretty well, there's a hill right there before Jefferson Street. He kind of dukes the hazard it up over the hill, the car jumps. They chase him down past the Capitol. He goes off right by the cemetery where you can go on not West Street, but Lamar Street on the other side right there. Past Capitol Police's current headquarters, actually. Too bad those had been there then the guys could all stand up and just machine gun them. That would have been better. But the takes a right, goes down Lamar Street, dumps a bunch of dope and guns out of his car.
Right.
Then finally wrecks his car or something to that effect, disables it in some manner, gets out of the car and runs. And then they have to tackle him and they apprehend him finally. They discovered that the girl on the passenger seat has been shot in the head, I think, which, I hate that for her, but I'm saying
the driver just leaves her there and takes off.
And he takes off. Yeah, he really cares, but when you're the driver of your car, like if I'm in the passenger seat and Lindsay's driving our car and she decides to all of a sudden run from the police and shoot out my back window out, I'm going to expect that we're probably going to get shot.
Right.
Like that's not a good thing. So, and
again, these are not model citizens.
And there's a witness out there that sees the guy throw stuff out the car. these are your facts, okay? And then here's what your AG does: indict them for that.
Well, and so that was the first one. That was the first incident, and
Sure.
they were cleared and we're back at work. Obviously,
Yep.
for the second incident
Right.
to even happen. But I think one thing a lot of people aren't realizing or there's not thought about is that these officers they're getting death threats. Their families are getting death threats. They don't feel safe. They have children who are having to see their fathers plastered all over the news, pictures of them calling them murderers. And that's awful for a child, especially when their father should be basically held as a hero who is keeping the city safe and is willing to go out there and risk his life in order to stop criminals like these. Like, it's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting, Shaun.
Yeah, it's as bad as it gets. And so now you got the situation. You've got, Rhinewalt's got 2 cases, an ag assault and a manslaughter. Fredrick's got 1 manslaughter. Jeffrey Walker's got an ag assault case, and those are all set. The manslaughter is set before Judge Kidd. Ag assault's before Judge Wooten. Now, this story gets even better. Okay, so Rhinewalt is sued, and I think and Walker are sued civilly in the ag assault case that I described, the one where the guy was shooting out the back window.
And guess who was representing them?
It's amazing. The Attorney General was representing them on the civil case. Okay, yeah. So they're representing them on the civil case. I know this gets good. So they're representing them on the civil case, and then somehow they decide, hey, you know what we're going to do? We're going to indict him on the same case, and we're going to prosecute him. So they're defending him on the civil case and prosecuting him on this case. It's the same facts, same case, like defending him on that. And now prosecuting him on that.
What is going on over there in that office, Shaun? You used to work there, Shaun. What's happening?
I mean, I'm telling you one thing, Jim Hood would never have done something like this, ever. And you can say, people can say what they want about Jim Hood, but Jim Hood would not have done this. Like, he was about protecting law enforcement. I'll give that guy one thing. I mean, he really was. And this would not have happened at all. And just the sheer stupidity of, you're defending him already on the case. You're his defense lawyer. I know it's civilly, but then you go out and indict him. So, like, how does that work? Like, you're going to deny the allegations in the complaint, like in the civil case, but then you're going to go on and make the same allegations in your indictment. It's the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
So then this indictment broke Tuesday, and I think, Shaun, were you able to?
I'm talking about the ag assault.
Yeah, no, you're talking about that,
right?
But this manslaughter indictment broke Tuesday. The news of it, and I think, were you able to look at the indictment for? I think it was up for like a split second, and they had to bring it back down because one of the other officers hadn't been served.
Oh, that's yeah. Thank you for bringing that up. We'll describe that. So forget about this. Talking about the civil and the ag assault stuff, which is funny enough of a F up there. So now you've got this manslaughter indictment, and they didn't even draft the indictment correctly. Like, so they use the language from the statute, and they, first of all, they leave out the words heat of passion. That's in the statute. You got to put those words in there.
And I mean, he's a lawyer, so he knows the words that have to be in there. I'm like, well, who cares if they left those out? But evidently they have to be there, right?
Right. But what they describe in the statute, and I was on talking about Carmelo Anthony with Clay earlier, describing what this legal stuff is in relation to that case. It's called imperfect self-defense. So they write the language for imperfect self-defense. And what imperfect self-defense is it that you honestly believe that your life was in danger, but that belief was not reasonable under the circumstances, and you acted in self-defense, somebody got killed or whatever. And then that's manslaughter. It's called imperfect self-defense manslaughter. It is, I have never, and consulting with other prosecutors about this, have ever seen that language of imperfect self-defense in an indictment before. Generally, what you do is you put like the regular manslaughter code section language in there. An imperfect self-defense comes in under what's called a jury instruction once the case is submitted to the jury. It's not something that's, I guess you can write it into the indictment. And everybody I've consulted, people who are doing this for years and years, are like, I've never seen it. And I can't tell you how many manslaughter murder cases I've tried. I've never seen anybody put that language in an indictment. It's really, really dumb in my mind to do it that way, but whatever. And so like you've got an indictment that's completely defective. It doesn't state the law correctly. So
You
right
think
there,
like, they'd have to re-indict? Like,
yeah, I mean, I think if I'm, Scott Gilbert representing Michael Rhinewalt, I'm going to file a motion to dismiss the indictment. I mean, it's faulty is all get out. It's not worded correctly. The law is in. I mean, you can't go to the jury with an indictment. You just can't do that. So that's a problem on. So they indicted the guys they shouldn't have, and they didn't even get the indictment right. So take for that what you will.
well, it's time for our next commercial break. But when we get back, Shaun, I want to discuss some of the theories as to why. I mean, what is going on? Why would they do this? What would be the reason behind it? What do they have to gain from this? It seems so wild, and there seems to be no reason. It's almost just indescribable that they would do something like this. But we're going to talk about all of that when we get back. And again, if you want to give us your thoughts, comments, or opinions, 601-879-0002 is our call-in line. And stay with us. We'll be right back here on WIB 103.9. Welcome back into Crossing the Aisle with Shaun and Lindsey. So, Shaun, what do you think would be the reason why the AG's office would do something like? And to recap, we're talking about the AG's office indicting two Capitol Police officers, or one former Capitol Police officer, one current Capitol Police officer, on two different cases, one aggravated assault and one manslaughter case. What would be the reason, Shaun, that would make them go after these guys like this? Or what are your thoughts,
That's
theories?
a really good question, because I've racked my brain on that one. Because, like, you've got, I guess we're going to the political part of it. So you've got the Republican AG, and the Republican platform has always been, back the blue. Well, except for January 6th. So I'm going to throw that out there, my conservative friends. Except for then, it's back the blue. And so you've got, and Lynn Fitch did stand up for Anthony Fox. I'll give her that due. I mean,
she did.
So
she's the one that got him out of there.
Yeah, I mean, that was, I commend her for that. It's hard to understand, because it's not like I've seen this narrative on they're like, oh, the Democrats have anything to do with this. Everybody just needs a full stop on that. Like, sometimes your own side messes up. It does bad things. Like, we're human beings. Politicians are not good generally. Like, they do things.
Some of them are.
Yeah. Okay. Fred, I like Fred. Fred's good. But generally they're not great people. So they do things to serve their own interests, and no matter what they use, they use the parties as it's just basically different rhetoric, y'all. But they're still trying to accomplish their own personal goals, essentially. And so I don't know what her personal goal is here. She's not. I mean, it's not like she's going to get Democrat votes for governor, because she's.
Yeah, we know that she's kind of playing around with the idea of running for governor in 28.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know if that's the angle, or maybe she can say, hey, look, we're prosecuting what we believe to be bad cops. Or my thought process is, as opposed to applied to Rhinewalt, is that she's trying to squeeze him. And by that, because I know this is a common prosecutorial tactic, is, you can indict somebody on one thing, and you don't think your case is kind of weak, maybe indict them on something else. You kind of force a plea out of them. That happens.
So maybe the first case was really weak, and so the mindset was, if we indict
a weaker case, an even weaker case.
So
we might.
I mean, two negatives do make a positive, but I mean, two really weak cases don't make a guilty police officer.
Right. I mean, it's really, really weak cases. And I, as I said, that, the concern that I have for Michael Rhinewalt, Stephen Fredrick, Jeffrey Walker is, you're facing a Hinds County jury that
can you get a fair trial?
Can you get a fair trial in Hinds County? Lately, what I've noticed, and you were with me when we picked that one jury in that case we had, and though they didn't convict our guy, though, but yeah,
I like to say that Vordaer. Well, see, I messed it up even then.
That's Vordaer. And my impression is, lately, when you're picking a jury in Hinds County, they're upset with crime. They've seen, and you saw that with the election results with Chuck Way, like how badly he got beaten in the general primary. So, so it might not be as bad as I'm thinking.
Well, it seems like it's headed in the right direction, but I don't know that I would want to be a white cop facing a Hinds County jury. That would be scary, in my opinion.
It's very scary. It'd be very concerning if I was representing either any one of these three guys. That would be one of my thought process. I mean, I would, first thing on the manslaughter case, I'd file a motion to dismiss, the indictment's all messed up, of course. But the
who can move the location? We were talking about this on another case, actually. How is that done, and who has the authority to do it?
Well, it's the circuit judge is the one who's going to rule on that. That happened in the Hutto case that I prosecuted, the death penalty case that I tried as a prosecutor. Now, the state cannot move for a change of venue. Some prosecutors I know have gotten confused about that before, but the state does not have the right to do that. Only the defendant can claim that right. The defendant can file a change of venue, and basically there's a certain factor test on it. Is the person a famous person? That's the defendant. That's one of them. Is it a case of, like widespread media coverage? There's a bunch of little factors that goes into it, and you file a motion based on that, and then you call witnesses to back up your motion when you do that. Now, what I would do in this case is I'd attach every single media article about when the mayor has talked poorly about Capitol Police, when they've had a town hall about the violence of Capitol Police, when Pastor Pickett has been out there crapping, when all of these
the media attention around legislative session when they chose to expand the CCID.
Yeah, all of that's great. All of that. I put tons and tons of articles, attach that to my motion, exhibits to my motion, and say that these officers, because due to that kind of bias in the community that's been put forth primarily by politicians that have tried to taint the community against them, that they cannot receive a fair trial in Hinds County. And I think, and I'm not saying that a Hinds County jury wouldn't acquit them. I mean, I think Hinds County jurors are smart. I've tried tons and tons of cases there, and I do believe that. I just would worry that based upon all the negative publicity they've gotten, that people's got that people have that in their minds. I know there's a lot of citizens that don't have that in their minds too. So, but it would be a concern of mine. And I feel like if they would get a fairer trial in a county that doesn't know who Capitol Police is, that hasn't had politicians make them out to be the Waffen SS or whatever it is. And I think in any other county in the state, pretty much the jury's out 5 minutes.
Shaun, check your phone and take a look at that we just got. And so I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, how on earth can the AG's office prosecute when you've got photos that look like that? And we're looking at the inside of the vehicle, where there's just drugs and guns everywhere.
That's a nice assault. I don't know that my gun friends will know more than I don't want to call it. Like, if I see some dude riding around with that, looks like like an AK-47. Maybe it is. I don't know.
I mean,
I was in the Marines, but I don't know this stuff.
Obviously, this is clearly someone with some criminal intent, some criminal history. When you're just openly riding around with that kind of stuff in your vehicle.
Yeah, you don't roll around in with a machine gun. Like if you're, like when you and I go to the manship Friday, I don't think I'm gonna be carrying my machine gun.
Maybe we need to, if these are the kind of people rolling around.
Yeah,
in Jackson over there.
Steven, check my machine gun when I get to the restaurant place, or would you check my machine gun? Yeah, I don't think this guy's. But according to NBC News, he's a young father that happens to be carrying a machine gun around in his car.
And I mean, I've never seen that much dope in one place before. That's
a lot of dope.
That doesn't even, how the police stations will post when they catch someone with drugs, and you see like the little smaller Ziploc bags of that's quite a big bag of drugs there.
This is a question for everybody out there. So call in if you could. What do you think? If you're riding around with all this dope and a machine gun, are you, as the NBC News described, a young father that died in a tragic shooting death, or are you a dope dealer that got whacked? I mean,
that does not look like the guy who's like the caring, doting father who's at home taking care of his young son. That looks like someone extremely dangerous.
Yeah, I don't think he was out buying an Elf on the Shelf for the Christmas season.
No,
coming up before he got shot.
I'm proud of you that you even know what that is.
I mean, I know some things about kids, not much, but I mean, it's just like. You look at that and you already know how that's been described to us. I mean, the guy is out there. He's a dope dealer. He's got all those guns, not because, he's he's a hunter. He
was hunting. I don't know what, but people,
well, see,
cops, he was hunting cops. Maybe. I don't know.
Well, Lindsay, there's this thing about it. Like when you're a dope dealer, like, people like want to kill you.
Right? Hunting someone,
so you got to be careful.
To buy drugs.
You got to have a bunch of weapons because people are out there to shoot you, take your drugs. It happens a lot, right?
Shaun gets so mad at me. Of course, he's a defense attorney, and this is what he does. It's his line of work. But he's going to meet with these people, and I'm like, "Oh, please be careful, please." And he's like, "I know what I'm doing. I've been doing this. I know how to talk to these guys."
My clients are not guilty. Don't even get into that.
Oh, I know. Well, I know most of them aren't.
Yeah. They're not guilty, and so we can't talk about that. They're good folks. But yeah, I mean, we just looking at it on base level, if you're riding around with a machine gun and a bunch of dope and you get shot by the police, it's because you probably deserve to get shot by the police because you are riding around and you're attacking the police. And what do you expect?
What did Lynn Fitch want them to do in that situation? What would she have done if she was in that situation? What did she? I mean, what do you want from them?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, not to shoot. Just pull out the machine gun, Jalen, and shoot me. I mean, or ram me with your car, and I'll just just so I can just not, so I can not be, indicted. Like that's the option. Get run over by the car, or shot with the machine gun, or get indicted. So those are the options that you've got.
No, but we got to get justice for this young, caring father.
I mean, that's
just disgusting.
That title of that is
That's unreal. And that is NBC News, guys. I mean, that's a huge media platform putting out this narrative, making it look like black guys killed by the white cops. I mean, it's just, it's so gross and so sickening that would be what is being shown to the world. And these guys who, like I said, are out there on the streets risking their lives to protect others are now going to take the fall for something that they did. They just did their job, just doing their job.
I really hate the press. And I don't mean this as a liberal conservative. This is both, because I can give you a million examples, because I'll consider NBC a liberal outlet, more liberal, but
they're all liberal.
Conservatives do the same thing. And it's like we live in this age where we can't trust
You can't trust
damn thing you read,
anything.
because you see some stiff stuff like this with a headline. Because the first time, people aren't like all like clicking on articles or they're saying, "Oh man, the racist cops in Mississippi shot a young father," and that's what they see, and they think that's what happened, and that's not what. It's just
Yeah, that's a
unfair.
model citizen right there.
Right? I mean, I think there should be responsibility with journalists to actually
There
look at the
definitely
things
should
they're
be.
doing, and the things they write, and they hurt people like by the things they say. I mean, I've told you about that case I was involved with years ago, where the guy we were prosecuting, they made it out to seem like he was innocent, and we framed him. And it came out that he was guilty as hell. But Anna Wolf over at Mississippi Day wrote all these articles, and when she worked at Clarion Ledger,
Mhm.
that made us all look
What were they doing,
bad.
like, hiding money in mattresses or
Yeah,
they
and
were
then
doing some
I'll
crazy
have to
stuff.
get in that story one time on air, but like, and the video came out, him packing all the dope, and all of a sudden we didn't frame him. And I mean, and it just, that's why I feel for guys like Michael Rhinewalt and Jeffrey Walker and Stephen Fredrick, because I've been in their shoes before when crap like this
Well,
happens.
they're being made out to
Um,
be the
and
evil
it's
villains.
it's not right. And the media is a lot to fault for this too.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
not
the AG's office,
the
number
AG's number
1.
one. The AG's number one and should be ashamed of what they're doing over there. But the media is backing it up because it fits in good narrative.
It's clickbait.
Yeah, it fits a
It's
good narrative for them.
yeah. All right, we're up against our last commercial break. Y'all stay with us, and we'll be right back to wrap things up for the day right here on Crossing the Aisle, WYAB 103.9. And we are back here on Crossing the Aisle. Well, Shaun, you don't have many good things to say about your former place of work over
Well, I
at
didn't
the
work. I worked for General Hood, so just to make that clear, I did not work at this AG's office. I will say this though, everybody listening, I know most people listen to the station, and most people in Mississippi are, very supportive of law enforcement, as we all should be. I think call your AG, write some letters, say something, because if you don't, nobody says anything, this kind of stuff is going to happen. And these three guys that are good guys are going to, we're protecting the community. They're going to, they have a chance of going to jail. I mean,
let them
and
know that you're disgusted by this.
and it's just, I mean, and it's, I'm telling you, we've seen the facts of it. It's completely bogus. And call, write some letters, say something, that you back the blue. And I mean, local area law enforcement knows these guys. And you guys get out there and you guys are good at banding together. This is, something impacts you and impacts all the officers in Capitol Police and Jackson Police Department, who are now they're
even more in jeopardy.
Yeah, I mean, because you think if you're a cop, I don't care if you're a sheriff's deputy in Rankin County, and they say you shoot somebody because you're defending your life. The AG has jurisdiction over you too, by the way, because that's their jurisdiction.
Any shootings, regarding cops.
It's not just
so
Jackson
this could
cops.
happen to you if you're a cop out there. It could be you next, and we're going to keep you all updated on the facts concerning this. We've got some good sources who are giving us, good information, true, honest information, and we're going to definitely keep everyone updated on what's going on with this. But definitely, I think everyone should be speaking out about how wrong it is, and let the AG's office know that you are not in favor of this. We'll be back tomorrow for a good Friday. We're going to have a fun, lighthearted episode, I hope. And
hopefully you guys are off of work though, and if you are, you can listen to us anyway.
See you then.
See ya.
Bye.